What if everything you're angry about right now was never in your control to begin with? And what if the one thing you've been ignoring was the only thing that was ever in your control? Stay with me. Because a man figured this out 2,000 years ago. Not a monk, not a hermit. A man who ran the most powerful empire in the world. And he wrote it all down, not for publication, not for you, for himself, on bad nights, on long campaigns, in the quiet between wars. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and what he wrote might be the most honest thing a powerful person has ever put to paper. Think about the wave of layoffs that has swept through some of the world's biggest companies in recent years. Thousands of people waking up to messages that felt strangely polite for something so life-altering. Calendar invites appearing out of nowhere, access cards stopping mid-morning, laptops couriered back in silence. Some of them had spent more than a decade there. They joined when the company was still small, built teams, worked through launches, missed birthdays and anniversaries to hit impossible deadlines. They tied pieces of their identity to the place without even realizing it. And then, one Tuesday morning, everything changed through a carefully worded email sent to thousands at once. For months afterward, many of them were furious. At leadership, at investors, at the economy, at the colleagues who somehow survived the cuts. They replayed meetings in their minds, re-examined performance reviews. They built a very detailed case for why this was deeply, profoundly unfair. And they were right. It was unfair. But Marcus Aurelius, writing in a leather-bound journal on the banks of the Danube, far from Rome, asked a question that cuts through all of it. If another's choice caused this, why are you blaming atoms and gods? In other words, reality happened. The question isn't why. The real question is, what now? The anger didn't restore the job. The resentment didn't punish anyone who mattered. All it did was keep them from asking the one useful question: what can I actually do from here? Now think about the parent who stepped away from work to raise their children. The years blur quietly. School lunches before sunrise. Laundry folded past midnight. Parent-teacher meetings. Fevers. Grocery lists. Bedtime stories repeated so many times, they can recite them from memory. And somewhere in between, caring for everyone else, parts of their old identity begin fading into the background. One day, they look up and realize the world moved on without them. Industries changed. Friends advanced. Careers grew. LinkedIn timelines filled with promotions, awards, and milestones, while their own days became invisible forms of sacrifice no resume knows how to measure. And sometimes, in the silence after the children finally fell asleep, a painful question surfaced. Did I disappear somewhere along the way? Marcus Aurelius had a powerful metaphor for this. He said that when a person loses touch with their nature, with who they truly are, it is like a hand severed from the body, cut off, disconnected. But here is the part people rarely talk about. He also said, a human being has something extraordinary, the ability to return. A severed hand cannot reattach itself. But a person can reconnect with themselves. They can rebuild their relationship with life. They can begin again. And it's important to realize that one does not necessarily need to return to the same title, the same company, or the same version of success. What they really need is to reconnect with the part of themselves that felt alive, the part that could think deeply, solve problems, contribute, create. So start small. Maybe a local community project, a few hours each week. Just something honest, something that reconnects you with the part of yourself that still wants to contribute, create, and feel useful again. Marcus Aurelius called this returning to the whole. Today, we might simply call it remembering who you are. Now, think about all those entrepreneurs who tried scaling and could not succeed. They built a company with everything they had. Years of savings, years of belief, years of quietly gambling on themselves. And then, the world shifted. Funding froze. Customers pulled back. The business collapsed. But when you're a founder, a company isn't just a legal entity. Your business and your identity get tangled together. So when the company breaks, you feel broken too. For a long time, they carried that failure like a weight. They stopped pitching, stopped networking, became experts at explaining exactly why things went wrong, until one line from Marcus Aurelius forces us to rethink the situation entirely. The obstacle becomes the material. Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say the obstacle disappears. He didn't say everything happens for a reason. He said the obstacle becomes the material. What the lost company taught them, which partners disappeared under pressure, which ones stayed, and most importantly, exactly which version of themselves they didn't want to be anymore. No amount of success could have taught them that. Some built again, smaller, leaner, more honest. And somewhere along the way they realized. The first company looked successful, but this one actually feels like mine. Here is what connects all three of them. None of them had a map. None of them knew how it would end. All of them, at some point, were stuck in the same place, spending enormous energy on the things they could not change. Marcus Aurelius, emperor, general, philosopher, was doing exactly the same thing. He wrote his journals to remind himself. Stop performing virtue. Start practicing it. Stop chasing reputation. Start choosing character. Stop waiting to become the ideal version of yourself. Begin from exactly where you are. He wrote this line just for himself, at night, when no one was watching. Soon I am dead, and all things are gone. Not as despair, but as clarity. You have something the executive needed, something the parent was searching for, something the founder had to lose everything to find. You have this moment, and Marcus Aurelius, dead for 18 centuries, is asking you the same question he asked himself on a cold night on the edge of empire. What is the next right thing you can do, right now, as an honest, rational, decent human being? That's it. That's the whole philosophy. That's the 2,000-year-old secret that every generation has to rediscover for itself. You already know what it is. You've known it for a while. The only question is whether you'll choose it.